Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have all of you here. I'm Melanie Dodd, and I'm ASHP's president-elect, and I just wanted to take a moment to welcome all of you to this session focusing on pharmacy technician training programs. As you are all aware, I'm sure, we are certainly facing many workforce challenges in our profession, including a shortage of pharmacy technicians. And our need to continue to recruit and train the next generation of pharmacy technicians is needed now more than ever. Your dedication to this endeavor is very appreciated, and on behalf of ASHP, I want to thank you for all of the efforts that you are putting into technician training. The significance of technician training cannot be overstated, as we all, as a pharmacy workforce, continue to work towards advancing our roles, both as pharmacists and pharmacy technicians. The training that we are contributing to is absolutely essential. And it's exciting to, as we dream and as we vision and think about the evolving roles of the pharmacy technician, as it becomes increasingly complex and demanding with the evolution of technology, advancement in our pharmaceuticals, changes in regulations. It's an exciting time to really be engaged in pharmacy technician education and being right at the center of that. Our pharmacy technicians are such incredible and trusted members of our team with very crucial responsibilities, and their training is pivotal to their success within these roles. And as you know, accreditation of these programs is essential to maintaining quality education and learning environments that allow our students to achieve the competency that's needed to practice in this challenging field and ultimately protect the safety of the patients that they serve. Today's program will be led by Lisa Lifshin, who is the Senior Director of Pharmacy Technician Accreditation and Residency Services with ASHP. And ASHP has been accrediting pharmacy technician education and training since 1983, before I became a pharmacist, which is pretty cool. And she has had collaboration with ACPE in the accreditation process since 2014. So here we are at 10 years in that collaboration with ACPE, which is just a fantastic partnership that we have. Accredited training and education programs are offered in a wide variety of teaching modalities to fit the needs of learners. So we see programs in community colleges, in technical schools, distance learning, military programs, proprietary programs, high school programs, retail and chain pharmacies, grocery stores, and health system environments, which is just amazing and fantastic. As I look out in the audience, I know we're a small group today, but how many of you come from community college programs? Okay. Technical schools, or any high school programs out there? Okay. In any retail chain pharmacy settings? Okay, so looks like mostly community colleges that are represented today. So we're very excited that you are interested in gaining more insight on starting your pharmacy technician education and training program. And this is absolutely a start to a very gratifying road in advancing the role of pharmacy technicians and advancing the workforce needed for our profession today and for the future. So at this time, I will turn the session over to Lisa. And again, I want to thank you for all that you do to support pharmacy technicians and their training and their important role within the profession. So with that, on behalf of the ASHP Board of Directors, wish you a wonderful ASHP Midyear. There's nothing like it. And I hope that you enjoy New Orleans and the remainder of your meeting. So, Lisa?
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you for your support. Melanie is... Thank you. We always have the president-elect on the PTAC, the Pharmacy Tech Accreditation Commission, and Melanie is our representative this year. And I have to thank Melanie for your engagement on the commission and participation and your interest as well. And that's really important because when she's our representative to the Board of Directors, and a strong representative really helps to convey the importance of what's going on, the things that we're discussing at the commission level, And it's very helpful to get our points across as well for the organization and for the technician education world. So thank you, Melanie. We appreciate it. I also have two individuals sitting up here. You've seen them before, I think. Tate Trujillo, he's the past chair of the commission, and Melissa Heim, she's the chair right at this point in time. So thank you for being up here. Much appreciated. We do, as Melanie has mentioned, we have a small and mighty group here. Thank you for finding. I saw on the app there's a scavenger hunt. This is part of the scavenger hunt, I'm only kidding, to find this room. But I'm thinking there's some people that are still lost. But feel free to ask questions at any point. We have two sessions. The first hour is the new and prospective session. We may get finished early. I'm not sure. We may not. But please feel free to ask questions. And the second hour, or the second session, separate, is an update from the Pharmacy Tech Accreditation Commission. That'll be what's really going on from the commission level. So again, thank you for being here. I'm going to start and teach you some tips on how to get your program started. That's me. I'm Lisa Lifshin. I've been with ASHP. This week is my 29th year at ASHP. It's pretty hard to believe. My background is I'm a pharmacist, and I did my residency at Children's in DC. So I'm a pediatric pharmacist, and pediatric pharmacists are always detail-oriented. I was an intern. I went to school in Philadelphia and worked as an intern at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital, which was actually the first accredited pharmacy tech program. They don't have one anymore. I'm going to get on them again to start one again or restart it. And they had the first pharmacy residency to be accredited. In Philadelphia, we always think we're the firsts, you know. We have another game today as well in football. We think we're pretty good at that too. But we'll talk about a few things today in the numbers of 10, the 10 key steps to becoming accredited. We'll talk about utilizing the website. The website changes a lot. You know, it changes in appearance each year. Changes in appearance, so we'll walk you through what it looks like today about knowing the standards. We're going through a standard revision, and maybe we'll give you some tips on things we're talking about. Talking about the tech and education and training program, developing your program or updating an existing program, applying for accreditation and reaccreditation for a newer existing program, preparing for a survey, what happens on a survey, site survey reviews and reports, what's mandatory once you're surveyed, the site survey response, and the actual Pharmacy Tech Accreditation Commission, and accreditation status. So these are the top 10. Let's talk about the website. So we'll show you what the website looks like right now. The same elements are always in it. It's just how to get there, I think, and what the front page looks like. So right now, we have the picture of, you know, there's nothing like it, the Midyear. So it's really the face. But you always really get to it in the same fashion. Look for the professional development title on the top bar. And then go to technician information. And then it's under the technician information, scroll down. And thank you, Eric. Eric designs all the wonderful slides because I am the least techno-savvy person out there, as I know Tate will laugh. And he does, you know, sort of give me the business for it. And the second block in the middle, or the second from the left, is where all the tech information will be. So the first thing you really need to do if you're starting a program is to look at the standards. And the standards, these are all the blocks that are the essential information items under the technician accreditation page. And when someone calls me about accreditation, I always say to them, take a look at that right-handed box, because this box has a wealth of information for you to review. And I always ask people, I'm very happy to go over everything, but the first question I'll ask is, firstly, did you go to the website? And secondly, when they say yes, did you look at that right-handed box? Because I rather go through the box with an individual, start looking at accreditation. If they've looked at it and they have questions, than to start from there, because there's so much there that you really need to look at it. It's sort of, when you go to the movies and you see a preview, it's good to know that preview and then see the movie, as opposed to just knowing a movie is out. So there's a lot of information there. That right-hand box has the accreditation standards, of which, as I mentioned, we're in a revision process. Regulations, we just revised them, and they're going to both the ASHP board and the ACPE board for approval. And we have other tools there too, a variety of webinars. This will be on in that box eventually too, for people to be able to watch. We put things in there, webinars on areas that are frequently cited during surveys, because we look at those as areas of education for the programs. So we have a webinar on the advisory committee, on strategic plans, on different aspects of how to get ready for the survey. So even more down to even more minute levels of this presentation are on this page. We have a tech tablet, and that's on the bottom, that comes out twice a year, and that's very helpful, I think. So this is where you find those type of things. We have a directory, and we'll go into more of this later, but when you get home, or even later on today, if you look at your computer, take a look at this page. Okay, here are the standards. In about a year and a half, this will look different, because the new standards will be up there. There's the standards, the regulations, the other tools, and we'll get into that. There's also the model curriculum. The guidance document is there. The guidance document, we sort of call it the teacher's edition. This is where you'll find the information related to the standard of what we're looking for when we're on a survey. So you'll find those pieces that clarify all of the key elements of the standard. And it describes what materials and documentation we'll want about the program when we come to visit you. And I'm going to back up to the model curriculum and tell you about that as well. And that really goes into the details of the standards as well, to look at each element of the program and what you should have in there for each element. And it's a big document too. It breaks down what you should have for your didactic elements of the program, your simulation, and your externship. Starting the program. As I have mentioned, there's a variety of informational videos, from application to survey, completing the application, completing the pre-survey packet, all of these different things that you have access to, and they're all free, which is pretty nice. We have 2 new things on the site that were developed by the Pharmacy Tech Accreditation Commission, the PTAC. We have a toolkit for health system pharmacy administrators to look at if they would like to develop a program in a health system setting, and they can use this slide presentation to present to their hospital administrators to justify a program. And there's elements in there to develop the program slides with the standard and other tips, as well as an FAQ in there, different questions that you might have on why to have a program, different things about different levels of the programs. We tried to think of every question you might have about a pharmacy tech program. There's also parts that talk about career ladders, and I really suggest that you take a look at it. It's hot off the press. And this is what they look like. The application, some of the videos that you'll see. Right now, there are different types of pharmacy tech education and training programs. I'm going to give you a little hint of what we're looking at right now. We have entry level, the 400-hour program, and you'll see this again in the presentation, in advanced level. Most programs now are entry level programs. There are 400 hours that you have to have at least 120 hours of didactic learning, at least 50 hours of simulation lab, and at least 1 externship rotation that's 130 hours in duration. And the other 100 hours need to be in any of those 3 areas. The advanced level includes 600 hours, of which 160 of didactic, 100 of simulation, 200 hours. This is really moving quickly. I think that there's a ghost in here. I'm convinced there's one in my hotel room. I'll tell you about that later. But I'm convinced. Maybe, Ann, you could tell me more about that in New Orleans, about the ghost. But the main element beyond the hours is you have to have 2 different types of rotations. One probably in hospital or home infusion, and one in retail. It could be in retail or an outpatient pharmacy, but to learn those 2 different types of skills hands-on in pharmacy practice. We're looking at, in the new standard as well, in having one type of program again. That hasn't been passed yet. It's just something that we are looking at for the new standard. So something that this group of individuals has privy information of something we're looking at for the future. So, but right now we still have the entry level and the advanced. You can offer both types of programs at your institution if you care to do so, but we've noticed, especially since after COVID, most programs that are applying for entry level, at the entry level designation. Applying for accreditation, what a perfect entrance to that. The next block under the big block. We have a fee schedule on there. It generally, it changes in January. It usually goes up about 5% or so. There's a fee for the application itself, and then an annual fee. And the annual fee is charged and it's invoiced to you. You don't send us any money at the time. And it's invoiced the amount for the year. And you may ask, well, what does that mean, the amount for the year, right? We charge you at the time of application because once accredited, and I hope that everyone is successful with their accreditation, not everyone gets accredited, but we hope that everyone is serious about it and tries to meet the standards. Not everyone gets 100% of it, but tries to really adhere to the standards. The accreditation is retroactive to the date of application. So when you apply and you get it, those students that are in the program at the time of application will be in an accredited program. And that's the reason for the retroactive and the fees for at the time of application. So if you apply January 1st, you're charged for the whole year. If you apply in July, you're charged for 6 months. So you'll get an invoice from the office for that. There are different fees for different types of programs. A college, a school, a health system, if there's one site, you get a certain fee. Retail chain-based pharmacy programs, we charge for the number of stores within the system. Distance learning, there's a different fee for that because there could be thousands of students in that type of program, so they get a different type of fee. And they're all listed on our website. So there's an application as well on this site, and it's a 2-page application with a variety of questions that needs to be signed off by you, the program director, your immediate, your boss, and the president of the institution or the owner of the facility or whoever is responsible for the facility. And then you can email that in. Don't mail it to ASHP. And here's more extensive information on the guidelines for application. You'll get an email of confirmation that we've received it, and then I'll contact you within 6 to 12 months of receipt of the application, usually faster, to ask you a variety of questions. When are you going to have a graduate of the program? Do you have an advisory committee? Do you have, the appropriate number of hours? Because these are sort of the stop or go with the application, because we have had situations where people are just developing the program, or they don't have an advisory committee, or they don't have the hours, and then we'll educate the program director and say, you're not ready. It's not time for you to do this yet. So here's an illustration of the application as well. Preparing for a survey. This is the big part of the process. Another box to go to. Here's the information. Once, I've communicated with you and we know when you're going to have your first graduate. There are a few of us that are lead surveyors. I'm the only full-time person at ASHP that does I do residency surveys and technician training program. I'm telling you, there's a ghost here. And there are 3 other people right now. We're going to have 4 that are lead surveyors as well. And a lead surveyor will contact you, and when they do the survey, they'll have a co-surveyor, and that co-surveyor will be a member of the PTAC or an educator who is a program director from a program. I'm telling you, I'm not moving this. I'm going to move it away from you right now. And they'll set up a time for your survey. And that survey will take place when you have a graduate of the program. So before that, you have to fill out a pre-survey questionnaire, and that mimics the standard. And you evaluate yourself against that pre-survey questionnaire and do it honestly, because we get pre-survey questionnaires frequently that are fully compliant all down the line, and that doesn't really help, because if you think you're not fully there, say it and describe why, because no one is fully compliant when we come. No one. When I was involved in residency training, I wasn't fully compliant. So we want to educate, learn from you, and you learn from us at the same time, because there will always be things that you fix for the report back. And so, in looking at that, do a true assessment of your program. So you'll use this pre-survey questionnaire to assess if you're fully compliant in the different areas. There's probably about 150 different things. Partially compliance, 1% of the way there to 99. You're not compliant in that area, or it doesn't apply. And then there's documents there that we need to review on site, an academic and professional form to complete on yourself and your staff roster. And here's the documents, and these may be different with the new standard, but you'll see that for now. Curriculum crosswalk, and this is what each of the programs fill out to compare themselves against the standard, the model curriculum of where they're teaching, where they're covering things in the standard. Where does it really cover in the curriculum? How much time do you spend on that? It's not real. It's difficult to fill out. I won't be dishonest about that. And we're looking at how this is going to be constructed for the new standard. But it gives us an idea of, is everything being covered in the curriculum? And it gives us a discussion point with you for the survey as well. And there's actually a video, a webinar on site to help you with that too. So here's a little more of a review of the standards. The standards at the present time are constructed of 3 sections: competency and expectations, and that's standards 1 through 5, the structure and process to promote achievement of these competencies, and the assessment section. They include personal and interpersonal knowledge and skills, and they're broken down. Everyone has the first 8 key elements, and if you're an advanced level, there's 4 more, and these go through each of the standards, have the entry level key elements and the advanced key elements. Then there's the foundational professional knowledge and skills. And the main, as I call it, usually the meat and potatoes, is standard 3, processing and handling of medications and med orders. And that's where we really have, the processing of prescriptions, med rec, preparing sterile or non-sterile preparations, all of the different things, the hands-on type of activities that the pharmacy technician student will do in lab. The next include patient care quality, safety, and knowledge skills. Regulatory, the regulatory are mainly didactic things that they'll learn in the program. Authority, standard 6 are the areas that the program director is responsible for, as well as the criteria to be a program director. There's certain elements that you have to be a program director. Standard 7, the strategic plan. Again, I encourage you to look at the video that we have, the advisory committee. And the advisory committee needs to be a variety of individuals, pharmacy technicians, pharmacists. If you're in an area that you are close to, The Board of Pharmacy, you might want to have a Board of Pharmacy member. You may want to have people from the College of Pharmacy in the area, people from the community, people that will be fruitful to your advisory committee. The curricular length, we talk about this, and again, this is the standard as it is today. We talked about the length already. Composition, we talked about 1 experiential rotation for the entry level and 1 additional for the advanced. We also have a section on different things you have to provide for applicants to ensure that they know what they're responsible for and what the program will provide for them for student recruitment, acceptance, enrollment, and representation. A section on faculty and instructors, what their responsibilities are and criteria to be a faculty member. Documentation, a variety of documentation, things that have to be, that you need to have for the program. Assessment of the program regarding program completion. We look at pass rates on national certification exams, program satisfaction, job placement, because these are all outcomes of the program. And assessments that you look at for your program with the structure and process. So what happens in a site survey? People always want to do this, and I always encourage programs that have gone through the process, maybe to do a presentation at the Midyear or at other technician educator meetings on their experiences during a site survey, because it's not as scary as you may think it is. We want you to do well. It's not one-sided. Anne has been through several of them, and we want you to do well. As the site can apply for a survey the first day you have a student in the class, and I encourage you to do that because we have to schedule you. In the Accreditation Services Office, we have about 3,000 residency programs and about 250 tech programs right now. From a residency standpoint, they're reviewed every 8 years. And we're hoping that we're looking towards for approval, again, not approved yet, that the cycle for tech programs will go to 8 years. It's not approved yet, but we're looking at that. So, we have quite a few programs to get scheduled. The survey is scheduled after an application is submitted. The pre-survey materials must be submitted to ASHP 45 days prior to the survey. So that's why we give you ample time to get ready for that. As I have mentioned, 2 surveys will either visit your site. The first survey is live. Reaccreditation visits are virtual. And they'll set up a schedule for this to meet with your administration, your director and instructors, graduates, students, a sample of each, and your advisory committee. So when this happens, and certainly look at the lab. The team will look at your lab and ask you a variety of questions. A lot of standard 3 happens in the lab. Most of that happens during the tour. The site survey team will provide a verbal report on site. There's no surprises when they leave. They'll go through the draft report with you when they're on site. So make sure that each team member, anyone who does the survey, while they're different people, does the same process. And they'll ask you, are we correct with this? Is there anything we captured incorrectly? Because once the report draft is written, it's just written more grammatically correct if need be, and you get the real report, I say, in 30 days after the survey for you to respond back to, because then it's not changed. Site response. Once you get that report, you have 75 days, not from when you get the report, but from the day of the survey to respond back. And then, regardless of when that's in the cycle, there are 2 PTAC meetings, and I'll tell you about that because that'll be on a slide. They'll go to different PTAC meetings for review. I'm sorry about this. But you'll have 75 days from the survey. Utilize your survey team. They're your guides. If you have questions, even when they leave, don't be bashful. If you need them to review anything in your report, ask them. They'll help you with it. Don't feel that you're alone in this. So the report will go to the PTAC for review. They'll take the response that you wrote and what the report that they had written and compare those and look at the quality of the response, what has been resolved. If things have been resolved, the PTAC won't even look at them. They'll only look at what still needs to be remedied. So what are other functions of the PTAC? They review applications for accreditation and they evaluate the programs. They make recommendations to both the ASHP boards of directors and the ACPE boards. They make recommendations over other things that need to happen, whether it be things at looking at durations of accreditation, looking at if we should have one type of program, and a variety of other current and future quality assessment issues that should happen for pharmacy tech programs. And they're really assisting in strategic planning and matters for pharmacy tech education and training programs. They identify potential activities and collaborative opportunities. We're doing more and more with our TPTS, our new pharmacy technician organization within ASHP. And they look to solicit input and receiving input from other stakeholders like yourselves to ensure the quality and currency and future for pharmacy technician educators and programs. So for instance, once this standard is written, the draft, and I keep saying the draft, it's important for your feedback on that, and the PTAC will be welcoming that as well. So the timeline of the PTAC. The PTAC generally meets twice a year, end of April, May, and October. So we just met in October, and you'll hear about the actions from that in the next hour. And they make recommended accreditation act. Those recommended actions go to the June and January ASHP and ACPE boards respectively. So those October actions go to the January PTAC meeting, and they'll vote on them. And then the letter of accreditation statuses are provided to the program sites typically in July and February. So they'll be available on your portals. Everybody has a portal within the website, and they'll find out their accreditation status, and you can download your certificate and the like of your programs. Accreditation status, again, at this point. We talked about the letters being mailed out. At this point, no program goes any longer than 3 years before submitting a progress report for review. So that means we ensure that we're looking at where the program is going. We're not leaving them behind, especially with the technician programs, because there's a lot of change in program directors. We want to make sure we know if changes have happened, and if the program duration changes, it'll be every 4 years in that capacity, and we're looking at what we'll do with the full cycle programs. And at this point, it's every 6 years, and it may change to 8. And at this point, I'd love to entertain any questions you have. And afterward, because this is a lot to take in at this point, here's my email if you'd like to email me at any point in time to ask any questions as you start putting your programs together, or you have a program already and have any questions. I'm generally available. Sometimes it takes me a little time because I'm on the road at times, but I'm always happy to answer your questions. Who would like to be the first person to ask something? If you'd like to come to the microphone so everybody can hear you. Yes. Or I can bring it to you also. We'll see how loud it is.
Thank you for a great presentation. My question is on online technician school. What is the experiential requirement for an online program?
What is that?
Experiential requirements, because from that entry level, you broke it down to the number of hours.
Yes.
In an online school, you could potentially have somebody apply from a different state and you don't have any affiliations there. So what's the requirements for that?
So for everyone, what's the experiential hours for a distance learning program? So any type of program, the standard is the same. So for an experiential program, you still have to have those same hours. Or for distance learning, they still have to have experiential hours of 130 hours for an entry-level program and one type of pharmacy experience at least, and for the advanced, which we don't have any distance learning, they would have to have two, and you would have to have someone review those programs. We do have distance learning programs, and some of them obviously have experiential programs all over the country. And if the program director or designee, which has to be a pharmacist or a pharmacy technician to review those programs, you can do that review of those programs for students all over the country to have them virtually. You know, you can look at it on the phone and go around the pharmacy and do checkoffs to enable such a review to be able to see them. But while a program is distance, they still need to have simulations as well, hands-on, not just interactive on the computer. And you can do that via Teams. You can do the lab in a box, and they can you can have certain exercises where the program director or designee or lab instructor can review them for looking at quality, or you can have certain on-site, maybe some ancillary type of lab facilities. Yep.
One other thing I was just going to say is in relation to the experiential for distance learning, those sites not only have to get assessed by the program director or designee, but it also needs to be blessed by the advisory committee. And that technically needs to happen prior to the student going to said site. So you've assessed it, it's a pharmacy somewhere, you've assessed it, the advisory committee says, yes, this is a reasonable place to go, you have that conversation, and there's a vote, and it hits the minutes for your advisory committee just before that student would go to that site.
That's a very good point. And I think the advisory committee is just as important or even more for a distance learning program for that reason. Thank you. Very good question.
Hello. I have a advanced program and an entry-level program. My entry-level program, both are accredited. Thank you. My entry-level program has gone through significant changes. It's shorter in duration because we no longer have prerequisites, but the meat and potato, as you said, is the same as my advanced, just one practicum. So do we need to reapply for accreditation for my newly crafted entry-level program? The meat and potatoes are the same. My compounding, my retail, everything is the same. It's just no front-end stuff anymore. No front-end, like English, math, things like that. Okay. No prerequisites. So do I need to reapply?
The question is, does she need to reapply because she doesn't have the sort of liberal arts prereqs?
Yes.
As long as you have the hours in the
I do.
pharmacy program.
I do.
Because those prereqs didn't add up to your 400 hours
Right.
anyway. You just need to send us, email me your changes. Compare what your program was before with what you have now, your hours, write them all up.
Okay.
And we'll put that on your file, and I'll look at that to see what's different and to ensure that you have the hours and your program and how all of those elements are the same. And to ensure that your college will still accept that as your program, too, to give a certificate for the entry-level program.
One of the things I try to articulate a lot as relates to ASHP standards versus requirements for a community college, that they're two separate buckets. Mm-hmm. So if you are meeting the ASHP standards and you have control and give a certificate and nothing really has changed, then nothing's changed. The whole, if it's an associate's degree, if it qualifies for student loan, like fund, like that's not really ASHP's problem. We try to keep those very separate. Okay. We understand that that's worlds that people live in, but if the foundational piece is 400 hours, this is the work, nothing's really changed, you just don't have the prereqs that you used to do that was part of the community college, then it's really a no change from my perspective.
Okay.
From that standpoint. But I try to keep those things very separate.
Thank you.
Just send us that you did change it, though, and what you changed. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yes, come on up.
So I have an unusual pharmacy tech program. We are with University of Providence, which is based in Montana, in cooperation with Providence Health Systems. So all my externships are in Providence hospitals. So all my students are distant learning though. None of them are on campus. So when I'm just applying for I will be applying for accreditation. We've been going since January of 2020, so we're very well established. When you do site visits, how does that work? So I have 4 regional labs, but none of them are based at my university.
We had talked before, didn't we? Or
Probably
talked
when
to
we set up our program, which was with I've been with the program, but I've only been the director for 3 years. But we're just finally going to start the process, so I just figured since I was here.
I think that's a great question. I had talked to someone else from Providence.
Probably Susan, who helped set up the program, or Frankie.
We'll talk when
Okay.
you apply, and we'll talk about that. We'll figure out what's your main site where you want us to see things, like what's your foundational site.
Okay.
And we'll talk about the other sites, and we'll figure out where you have the most students at the
Okay.
time, and we'll look at some things maybe virtually.
I know,
and we'll
that's,
go
yeah.
from there.
Okay. Second question, we meet all the hours for advanced, but how does the internship need to be split up? Because they do 256 hours of experiential plus 64 hours of in-person lab. But as far as the actual externship, does it need to be like so much retail? Because they are majority hospital training for their externship.
You have 264 hours.
256 hours. They do 32 hours a week for 8 weeks.
Okay. I think enough, so predominantly you mentioned maybe.
Yeah, predominantly it's hospital.
Yeah. I think enough where they'll have enough experience to do all the retail activities to work in there.
Right.
I would probably, while it's not a number, if
Right.
you're 252, I would maybe round it up to 260 if you can, and do 160 in the one and maybe 100 in the
Okay.
other.
So split it up
maybe
kinda evenly.
80, and then
Okay.
whatever,
Okay,
the rest.
that was my other question.
So then you have the majority in one, but still give them
Mm-hmm.
enough that they could really be functional, and the other
Yep.
get a lot to be more than just watching.
Going back to your distance learning or your multiple regional pieces, one of the things I would just advise is make sure that for like your simulations, that you have the appropriate checkoffs,
Yep.
so that when we come in, we can say all 4 sites are doing the same thing.
They get, yep. They
Like,
have
as long as you
schedules
have-
broke down by the hour.
Yeah, as long as you have the documents that this simulation, this is how they got checked off. Here's their evaluations.
Yep.
That
We have
we feel comfortable saying all 4 sites do it the same. They have the same general materials. Then that part's a non-issue.
They do. They all follow the
Yeah.
same, they meet on the same days, they follow the exact same schedule, broken down by how long they need to be spending on every activity, so.
And I would imagine you meet periodically together to ensure that happens, those different lab instructors. and
Yeah, I
different
meet with
sites.
them, and I meet with the students once a week.
Oh, good. Good, good. You had a third question, I believe, correct?
I think that was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one was about the advanced with the,
Oh,
with the
good.
splitting it up, so.
Good.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so we'll be in touch. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? I like it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Spindler. We have a new program, new graduates, and are uploading our documents within the next 2 weeks. If we've already made an assessment of what we want to change and change our program, what stuff do you really want? Well, the graduates, we've only had one graduating group, or do you want like our new different curriculum, the one we're doing, or a hybrid of both? What they underwent to map it, and then kind of a description of what we're doing differently, or
So when is Renee reviewing you? I know Renee.
February 3rd.
Talk to Renee.
Okay.
Because at this point, if what's in there, she'll want to see what you're going to be doing, but it'd be better to talk to her because she may have started to read some things, or like she'll ultimately want to see what is going to be the future, but she may want to see what you started from as well,
Okay.
because I know she's been talking to you.
Yeah.
So,
I just didn't know for the whole, the hardest part is the crosswalk, right?
Yeah.
It seems to, what I've gathered. So that's the question. So if we make changes it's not a big change. It's for the better change, but that's the part I don't know. I don't want to have to start it from scratch or do 2 on trying to do less on a follow-up.
so did you just put it in to Fabric? You just put the stuff
Yeah, so we haven't, she hasn't reviewed anything we've uploaded, or, because we haven't done anything yet.
So I would be able to speak to put what your new plan is on the crosswalk.
Okay.
Like if that's your new curriculum,
Yeah.
put that in, because that's what is technically current, even though your students haven't gone through it, and talk through as it relates to standard 14 about your continuous quality improvement.
Yeah.
As to this is what we did, this is what we measured, this is what we changed, and now this is what we're showing you that we're changing.
Okay.
So it packages all that together.
And then we'll be non-compliant because we won't have an official vote on it by our advisory committee.
No, that's okay.
That-
But I guess my question, Sarah, is that all that's changing, or is there more of the packet that's changing?
No, that's the biggest thing.
that's
We're adding some things and we're getting rid. We ended up with what we thought were too many hours. Like we exceeded what we thought we were doing.
If that's in this, I would just mark it that this is the new thing.
Okay.
And that, because I was thinking that there were more.
And we want to add on immunizations.
And the last thing is to help with your advisory committee stuff. Go do a virtual email vote. Send out the new curriculum and just do an
okay.
email vote with your advisory committee.
Okay, sounds
and then add that to a minutes that's
Okay.
saying, hey, they approved it, and
An addendum.
and you can submit it in your packet.
You can have more meetings than the 2 a year, that's fine. Any other questions?
Questions. Thank you for the information. Very helpful. My questions are regarding programs operated by health systems themselves. Essentially, the tech trainees would be employees. As far as the requirements for disclosure of financial obligation because they're paid, and then also regarding the survey or review of the experiential sites themselves because they're on a common ownership, how would that differ?
I think the only so on the first question as to the financial piece, the only thing we would want to make sure if they're employees that if there is any requirement after they graduate to stay for a particular time, that's disclosed, so that there's clear documentation. So it's kind of the reverse side of, if you're paying, we want them to know what they have to pay. They're getting paid, but if you make them stay for 2 years or a year after they graduate, like if that's a case, then make sure that that's disclosed. And then as for your experiential sites, you still need to do the checkoffs, but since they're all your employees, the leaders in those areas can do those checkoffs, send those paperworks to the program director, sign off, and then still have the advisory committee do a e-vote or just a general blessing that these are the sites where we want to put students.
I just have one other question. So if we are also taking trainees from another program, and then also having trainees from our in-house program, are there any considerations or advisements as to, yes, the experiential bandwidth naturally would be a little bit tighter because you're having more trainees potentially, but as far as any documentation or considerations with both program trainees in-house, is there any consideration on that?
So I think the only piece is the trainees that are from the other institution, where are they doing experiential? Your site or they're at?
We would be one of the sites.
You would be the site?
Yeah.
Then it really, they're still your students, so you just have to make sure you have the capacity to have enough oversight as you would with any learner.